The loop in the woods. This happened just a few weeks ago during spring break. I'm a college senior, and I'd headed back to my quiet suburban hometown for the week. Since my friends all had different schedules, I decided to spend the week resetting, cutting out the junk, and working out every day. On a Tuesday afternoon, I went for a run. I picked a 3-mile loop I'd done 1,000 times in high school. It's a simple route. A quarter-mile through the neighborhood, then into a wooded trail that spits you back out near my house. The second I stepped outside, I noticed the fog. It was video game, thick, artificial, and heavy. Everything past 40 feet just dissolved into gray. I almost stayed inside, but I knew this trail by heart. I could run it blindfolded. I hit the woods, and the fog swallowed the daylight. Around the 2-mile mark, I expected the trail to curve left toward the exit. But when I checked my Garmin watch at 2.5 miles, I was still deep in the trees. I figured the GPS was glitching due to the canopy. Then the watch hit 3.0 miles, then 3.1. I should have been standing in my driveway. Instead, I was still on the dirt path, surrounded by endless trees. I stopped to catch my breath, trying to be rational. There are no forks in this trail, no off-ramps. The only way to stay in the woods this long was if the trail had somehow stretched. I decided to turn around and retrace my steps to the trailhead. The fog grew even denser. Then, the silence broke. I heard a sound I can only describe as a drone. It wasn't a moan or a cry for help. It was a sustained, wavering, mechanical yet human noise that rose and fell like a siren. It felt wrong. I started sprinting, but I'd already run 4 miles and my legs were heavy with exhaustion. The sound didn't fade. Whatever was making that noise was matching my pace, staying just out of sight in the gray haze. I finally burst out of the trees and onto the street, nearly vomiting from the effort. I turned back to look at the trailhead. Standing in the middle of the path was a silhouette. It was a dark mass, at least 7 feet tall, gently swaying back and forth. The droning had stopped, but the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. I ran the rest of the way home and didn't look back. My parents think it was just a tall creep trying to scare me, but a human can't produce that sound while sprinting through thick brush. I'm back at school now, but I still see that swaying shape every time I close my eyes.
The rowboat of Willapa Bay. About 6 years ago, my buddy Edwin and I finally set out to kayak Willapa Bay, a massive tidal estuary on the Washington coast. We weren't amateurs. Edwin had been a guide, and we knew the water. We launched into a thick morning fog, expecting it to burn off. The bay in the fog is eerie. It feels like you're paddling through cotton. Around 9 a.m. we heard it, a rhythmic splash. Creak, splash, creak. It was the sound of oars. We were using paddles, which have a totally different acoustic profile. We stopped and drifted, listening. The sound was close, maybe 100 feet to our right. Edwin called out a hello, but there was no response. The rowing didn't slow down or speed up. It just kept that perfect, hypnotic rhythm. For 20 minutes, that sound stayed exactly parallel to us. It never got closer. It never fell behind. It was intoxicating and terrifying at the same time. At one point, the fog thinned for a heartbeat, and I saw it. A small, dark wooden rowboat. I could see a figure at the oars, but before I could make out a face, the fog clamped down again. Terrified, we angled for the shore. Navigating the bay in low visibility is dangerous because of the shifting sandbars, but we didn't care. We just wanted out. Suddenly, the fog lifted. We could see 100 yards in every direction. I spun around, expecting to see the rowboat. The water was empty. No boat, no ripples, no person, just flat, gray water. We hit the beach, jumping out into the freezing shallows just to feel solid ground. We stood there for a moment, catching our breath, when Edwin pointed down the shore. Fresh, wet, barefoot footprints led out of the water and onto the sand. The water was still pooling in the depressions. Whoever made them had just stepped out seconds ago. The prince walked up toward the tree line, followed the shore for a bit, and then vanished into the deep forest. Against Edwin's protests, I followed the prince back the other way to see where they started. 50 yards down the beach, we found it. A small, dark wooden rowboat was pulled up onto the sand at an angle. The oars were resting inside. It was the exact boat from the fog. There was no one in sight. Just a silent boat and a trail of wet feet leading into the dark Washington woods.